Well, hey there, and welcome to Wedding Planning Simplified. Happy Halloween. I am Amy, and I'm a wedding planner and educator here in London, Ontario. I'm here on Halloween to talk to you about something that I think is particularly topical in our current season of Halloween, and that is the theme wedding. Now, if you have started your wedding planning, you've probably heard something about, oh, you should have a theme, or what's your theme, or have you determined what theme direction you want to go in? And it can be kind of a daunting idea. What I want to talk to you about today is the fact that, first of all, a theme doesn't have to be themey. All a theme is going to do is to help you create a cohesive wedding that works together from start to finish, where every element sort of talks to each other and flows seamlessly together so that your guests are going to think, oh, what a beautiful wedding. And they're not necessarily going to say, oh, what a beautiful Disney princess themed wedding. That's not necessarily where we're going with this, despite the fact that I am currently wearing my daughter's crown. So today I just wanted to kind of jump in, and I hope, if my technology works, to show you a couple of examples of theme weddings done really well and some examples of theme weddings that perhaps could have been done better. I'm going to share with you some tips on how to avoid being tacky with your theme and to always keep things classy, and just give you some ideas that you might want to take as you start to develop your theme. So, first of all, again, just to reiterate, a theme does not have to be over the top specific. A theme is a really great way to create cohesion, to create a wedding that flows seamlessly from start to finish, and that really captures the personality and the tastes and the likes and the dislikes of yourself and your partner as a couple, which ultimately is what you want to do with your wedding. It's your wedding. You want it to be a personal and an honest reflection of the two of you as a couple. And so themes can be very specific. You could have a specific book or a movie or a show or a genre like Harry Potter or Disney or Broadway. Those would be examples of some really specific themes that you could go with. You could also talk about specific locations or aesthetics. Perhaps you took a trip to Paris together, or you could do a celestial or a starlight theme. You could do an enchanted forest theme or a tropical theme. You could also base your theme around hobbies that one or the other or both of you like to do together. So things like food or wine, or maybe travel. Maybe you enjoy hiking, and so you want to have just an outdoorsy theme to unify your wedding. Maybe you are sailors and you'd like to go with a nautical theme. These are all a little bit more subtle ways of incorporating a theme, but still making sure that it does flow through the entire wedding and it's demonstrative of your personality and your likes and your tastes. And your guests will go, oh, yeah, this is so them. You could also base your theme on the time of year that you're getting married. So it could be a holiday themed wedding, a summer wedding, a fall wedding, a Halloween wedding, as we would talk about today. You could also have a very general sort of idea that ties your wedding together. And that could be something like dark and moody, or funky and modern, or bright and fun, whimsical, vintage. So your theme doesn't have to be super specific. It doesn't have to be something that everybody's going to look at and go, oh, this whole wedding is Harry Potter themed. It can be a lot more general, but the idea behind choosing a theme is that it is going to, again, tie everything together and give you a basis to make decisions from. You can then say to yourself, okay, I'm having a dark and moody wedding. Does this make sense with these flowers that I'm choosing? Does my stationery capture that dark and moody feeling? So, keeping those kinds of things in mind, I'm going to give you 5 tips that hopefully you can incorporate as you're planning your wedding. And the first one, I think, applies not only to your theme, but to every element of your wedding. And that is, don't try too hard. Keep in mind that your theme should be personal to the two of you. So don't do a Disney theme if you're not Disney fans. I'm going to share my screen here if I can make this work. And I'm going to show you a picture of a wedding that I did a number of years ago now. And in terms of keeping things personal, this couple are very musical, and the groom is an actual practicing musician. The bride appreciates music and also has a real heart for things that are vintage. And so this wedding was a vintage music theme. So they held it at Aeolian Hall here in London, which was an appropriate venue to start with. And as you look at the picture, you can see that every element of the wedding kind of ties into that. They had a real unified color hall. They actually had a live band. The bride had sourced cabaret lights for the tables so that it gave you that feeling of being in a vintage jazz club. And every choice that they made, right down to the chairs and the graphics that they had on their stationery, really tied in nicely to that. So this was something that was really personal to them. They weren't trying too hard. Every element of the day was really reflective of them as a couple. And ultimately, you want to remember that the day is about the marriage. It's about the joining of two people together. It's not about creating a huge spectacle. So keep that in mind. Don't try too hard. The second thing to think about is to start at the beginning. And that's going to ensure that every element of your wedding, right from the save the dates or the invitations, from that first communication you have with your guests, it's going to ensure that everything is really cohesive and works together. So it's not like you've sent out some stationery that maybe looks like it's going to be, a bright and sunny summer theme, and then all of a sudden the guests get to the wedding and it's all dark and moody, or it's Disney all of a sudden. So you want to make sure that you start at the beginning, right from invitations or save the dates that set the tone. So you could incorporate different graphics or fonts or colors into your invitation that you are then going to carry through the rest of the wedding that are representative of the theme of the day. And I just want to show you, here's an example of what I'm talking about. This couple is another couple whose wedding I did a few years ago, and they were very theatrical, both the bride and the groom. And so they also got married at Aeolian Hall, interestingly enough. And they carried everything through right from their invitations to their ceremony programs, which is what you're looking at right now. That's a playbill styled theater program kind of thing that they worked into their day, which was really, really cute. And it tied all of the stationery together. And then, of course, their venue played into that, and their decor and floral choices played into that as well. If you are having a website, you could certainly incorporate your theme into your website as well. And then you're going to carry that theme consistently throughout every element of your day, through stationery, through your colors, as we saw in the previous picture I showed you, choosing a color scheme that coordinates with your theme and carrying it throughout your linens, your flowers, your attire. And then you can carry your theme through your verbiage as well. I did a wedding a number of years ago that had a Harry Potter theme, and they chose readings from Harry Potter to incorporate into their ceremony, which was actually really very touching and very meaningful. So start at the beginning and then think about incorporating your theme in subtle ways into every element of your day. And subtle is key. So my third tip would be that less is more. So you want to make sure you're thinking about keeping things subtle and not hitting people over the head with anything. I generally think that if you overdo it and make it into a spectacle, it's going to turn into something that quickly runs into the area of tacky as opposed to classy. So keeping things subtle with your fonts and stationery, for instance. Maybe you want to choose a curly, whimsical font if you're doing a woodland theme, or maybe you want to choose a swirly, romantic font for a dark and moody theme. But fonts, I'm a huge font junkie. I feel like fonts have feeling, and they definitely communicate that feeling. So thinking about just even choosing a font that your guests aren't necessarily going to say, oh, this font indicates that the wedding is going to be dark and moody. No way, but they're going to just sort of subconsciously get it. And when they see that same font tied through your day of stationery, your programs, your table numbers, any signage that you have, it's going to really kind of sink in with them that it's been a thoughtful choice that you've made that works with the theme of the wedding. With your colors and graphics, try to keep a consistent color palette. I'm always a fan of choosing one predominant color and one or two secondary or supporting colors. Then I would advise you to have a neutral as well, a black, a navy, a beige, a gray, and then choose one metallic to carry through, unless, of course, you're doing a multi-metal kind of industrial sort of a theme, in which case you can choose multiple metals. But generally, trying to keep your color palette simple and clean is a very simple way to keep things looking classy, not tacky as well. And that follows through to your accessories as well. So in your small touches, like your centerpieces, so for instance, this one that we're looking at now is a fall theme. You can see that they've chosen to go with gold accessories. In the table number, there's the maple leaf motif that's very simple and classy in their table number. And then their color palette is those rich fall tones, and they've carried that through all of the florals. The bridesmaids were in deep burgundy, and the sunflowers made an appearance in the bridesmaids bouquets and the bride's bouquet as well, to carry that through and make it really cohesive. So in your small touches, your centerpieces, the little decor displays that you do on your auxiliary tables, you want to keep things classy and subtle. Generally speaking, avoid stuff that you find at the dollar store unless you can find a way to class it up. I am a huge fan of spray paint. You can literally spray paint anything and make it look classy as long as it works with your color theme. So you can certainly find little trinkets at the dollar store if you're doing like a carnival theme, for instance. Carnivals don't necessarily scream classy, but you could do a carnival theme and bring it in a classy way by getting some plastic zoo animals at a dollar store, spray painting them gold, and tucking them in amongst your beautiful floral centerpieces. So less is more in that case, but it's a really classy way to bring in something that ties everything together. And I would generally advise you to avoid costumes where at all possible. I have a couple that are not weddings that I've done. So that's the disclaimer here. This cat wedding was not a wedding that I did. Neither was the Shrek wedding. But just keep it classy, keep it on a subtle scale. And just keep in mind that everything needs to work together. So that would be my fourth tip, is make sure that when you make all of your choices, you have that theme in mind, so that everything from chairs to backdrops to accessories to attire, everything works together and has just a touch of your theme involved. So don't just choose a themey centerpiece that has, some kind of Star Wars motif, for instance, and then not carry that through to anything else. You can use small details like your cake topper, for instance, to bring in your theme and some ideas that are personal to you. But I would suggest not just doing the cake topper. You can find a way to incorporate some of those elements into your centerpieces. Maybe you've chosen a very classy graphic for your stationery that incorporates the Star Wars theme as well. So making sure that everything ties in to everything else right from the very beginning. So your color palette is unifying, your font choices are unifying, your graphics are unifying, and then you can choose chairs and backdrops and linens that match, and everything ties together. Finally, my last tip would be to make sure that you keep it classy, appropriate, and timeless. I mean, you could certainly want to have an over-the-top princess theme, and it could get very, very tacky very quickly, as evidenced by this dress. Again, not a wedding that I did. You could be a huge history buff, but be cautious of how you turn that into your wedding. Incorporate things in a classy, timeless, appropriate way. Think about people and their sensitivities and possibly being offensive. Hopefully you would certainly pull the plug long before you did anything like this picture that I'm showing right now. But just be mindful that your theme should be representative of the two of you, but also appropriate to the rest of your guests. Being sensitive to guests and their sensitivities is important as well. So definitely there are lots of ways that you can have an incredibly classy themed wedding that doesn't necessarily scream theme. If you don't try too hard, start at the beginning, keep in mind that less is more, make sure everything works together, and keep it classy, appropriate, and timeless, you can create a wedding that really is reflective of the two of you, that is unified and cohesive throughout, and that your guests really, really enjoy. So, thank you as always for joining me here on Wedding Planning Simplified. I'm Amy. I own Unmistakably You Boutique Wedding Coordination, and we are very excited to be launching some really exciting things in the near future. So stay tuned for that. I will be back here with you next week, and I actually not sure what we're talking about. I have it scheduled, and I didn't check before I hopped on here. But we have another great topic for you. I think actually it might be dealing with thank you cards next week. We've taken some requests for people's struggles that they're having right now. And so if you at any point are struggling with anything, feel free to reach out. You can send me a message here on Facebook. You can email me at amy@unmistakably.you and amy@unmistakably.you.com and shoot me your questions. I'm happy to either create a live out of them or to answer your questions directly. Have a very happy Halloween. If you've got little ones that you're taking out trick-or-treating, have fun, be safe, and I will see you next week. Take care.